And then it's also using up your creative energy. You're just getting all your creative juices and it's like, I'm creating these scenarios that will probably never ever happen. Hey, welcome back to Uncivilized Rebirth. My mission is you. I have gained knowledge and skills and capabilities in the realm of healing, and it is my job to share those with you. And today I want to talk about forgiveness and what that looks like energetically, and how that frees us up from the past to move into the future. And now I'm not saying that in just like a trite manner where it's just a phrase to drop. I'm going to go a little more in depth on energetic ties and where the energy is going in the brain and how it takes up different processing spots in the brain. Now, let's say, for instance, we have somebody that's very close to us, and I will use myself as an example. The family I grew up in did not love me and they abused me. And as I grew up, they would use this to gaslight me and act like they didn't do these things. And that would create all these negative emotions in me: the hurt, the pain, the suffering, the re-wounding. And it happened over and over and over throughout the years. And I didn't really understand the concept of forgiveness for me and how that helps me heal, because I was just desiring for them to say, hey, I'm so sorry we did this. We were so wrong, and I want to admit to it, and I want to apologize. When in reality, and I share this with you because there are many other people out there like me, that the people that wounded us as children are never going to ask for forgiveness as adults. And look at this. If they're going to wound you and hurt you as a child, like, you should not expect that person to shy away from hurting you as an adult. That's just the truth. So, forgiveness energetically. So every time we look at a memory in the brain, or we pull up those old happenings that happened to us, we are using brain power. There's energy going up to the brain, hitting a processing spot, pulling out a memory, and then using creativity energy to play that memory out in our mind. Now, with this memory, there's encoding in it. And this encoding will be identity, it can be feelings, and it can be timestamps. So what that can do is it gives us that perspective of we're still in the identity of that hurt little person or that younger person. And then it puts us in that timestamp of like feeling like we're back there again in the past. And so all that work we might have done just feels like it's gone all of a sudden. And if you've ever experienced this, you're like, man, I was just that hurt little boy or that hurt little girl again when I saw them. Or when they said this, it put me right back in that place. That's because the encoding is getting played, and your identity is a type of coding in your system. So when those memories pop up, it's not only using your processing center, it's pulling out and accessing memory records, it's playing those memories, and then it's applying those encodings of the identity, the timestamps, and the feelings all again right there in real time. And also with the feelings, those are processes that are activated where it's like you pull out this file, you play the file, and the file says, send energy to this processing spot in the brain that activates these emotions. Check this out. So it's pulled out and it says, go activate this. That is a neural pathway that's connecting even stronger in the brain to show that when this process starts, these processes over here, energy is going to be sent to them and they're going to activate. So that's why when we pull out those memories, we have all those emotions come up again, because that's energy being sent to a process unit that activates the emotions. Now, how do we free up from this? Like, what is it look like? So for me, a process that I have developed, and it works excellent for me, is so forgiveness. Okay, how do I break this down? So we'll start with forgiveness, then we'll get into the memory, and then we'll get into how that frees up the energy. So forgiveness. So if we look at a person's soul and it's attached to a human body, the human body can be treated in a way where the brain starts identifying as the brain, as in, this is all I am, this is my existence, and this is my identity. And then the human condition can be programmed to act and conduct itself in a certain way through outside stimuli and validation and invalidation. So then what happens is the brain starts developing this ego or ways of conducting itself in the world that is not in alignment with the soul. Now, if you look at this, the soul is never hurt. The soul is never in pain. There's a separation that's created where the brain thinks it's the brain, or you think you're the brain in there. You don't realize that there is a soul that is attached to you, or this body's attached to your soul, so it works that way, I guess. Yeah, more or less. So this person was a little child. Whoever the person is that hurt you, at one point in time, they were a little child that was still operating at a soul level without being poorly programmed in the brain. Then it gets to a point in time where it totally switches over and there's 100% disconnect. There's no love, there's no kindness, there's no empathy, no compassion, no nothing. It's just, I'm robot, must conduct this way, when me get hurt, me hurt back, and that's it. Just ones and zeros. And then it goes through being forced to believe a certain thing, being told how to act, and then it just conducts itself like a computer. It's like garbage in, garbage out. So look at your abuser or the person that hurt you as the little child they used to be. And that their soul is still in there. Like at the core, they don't want to be this nasty, rotten person that hurt you and still treats you like garbage. And this is where you start to elevating your existence or your maturity level of, instead of viewing the actions, you're viewing the soul. And you're seeing that there's a separation. There's the soul, the brain, and then these actions that are pre-programmed. And you look past those actions at the soul. And you see the soul, and then you get freed up. And you're like, oh man, like now I have empathy and compassion for that little child who was hurt themselves. And that they never got the chance to be loved and cared for. And they only learned one way of interacting with the world, and that's through pain and hurt. And that's sad. Like, that's heartbreaking. And it's cruel and it's wrong. It's a crime against humanity. So when we take that elevated position and look at them for who they truly are as their soul, we can easily step past the transgressions. Now let's step into the memories that are still in our brain. So when we see this person's face or hear their name, or we go through a certain season, there's a multitude of things that can trigger these memories from the past that are painful. What I have developed is a mental library. And the way you think, your brain will conform and create neural pathways that correspond with the way you think. So what I do when these memories come up, and I will use this example because I think that is a fair way to show you that I've done the work, and to show you, and you can't see in my brain, but it's like, hey, these are processes that I actually use. So I have events in my childhood that were just traumatizing. And so what I do is when they pop up, I go to my mental library. I imagine this built out library. I go sit at the desk and I'll lay down a notebook and I have it labeled maybe father or maybe mother or maybe government. And so and I lay it out. And as the memory plays, I reverse engineer the images into words and I start writing out. This was a terribly painful experience. I was screaming, crying, trying to get away, and I could not escape. But now here I am, being the man that would have protected myself. This is where I am now. And here's what I'm doing is the identity that is sitting there writing in this book is healed. So now I'm taking all this processing power of all the imagery and I'm reconverting or recoding this image into words. And it takes away a lot of the imagery and a lot of the coding. And then as this memory is being recoded into words that are written out in my brain and my mental library in this book, the coding of identity is healed and solid and compassionate. And then when I'm finished writing, and it doesn't have to be everything, I will close the book up mentally and I will put it on the shelf. The brain follows the patterns through visualization in the brain. So as I start developing these patterns of writing the memory, visualizing it closing, and then visualizing it, put it on the shelf, what it's doing is creating this neural pathway of I now have the processing power and the processing pathways that when these memories come up, that I can file them away and they get put back away where they go. And then I am in control of when these memories pop up and how long they pop up. And when I recode the emotions and recode the identity in these memories, those old ways of feeling from the initial event no longer are encoded in the memory at all, and they don't even apply. What applies now is compassion and empathy for this story. And it becomes a story in my mind that's organized and filed away properly. So through visualization, your brain will create those pathways that copy the way you think. Now, next, with the energy in your brain and how that frees up your creativity centers. Because when we can pull up these memories of the pain of the past and we watch it, then we start imagining the things we'll say to them to hopefully change their heart. Things we can say to them to get them to understand the pain they caused. The situations that we can imagine to maybe get back at them. This is all creating a new memory in your mind, and then it's also using up your creative energy. You're just getting all your creative juices and it's like, I'm creating these scenarios that will probably never, ever happen. And they actually probably, I'm going to say they won't happen. They just won't happen. So then you build up these scenarios of like, this is the best thing I could hope for. You're going to be disappointed because it's not going to happen. That person that wounded you as a child, they don't care about you now as an adult probably. And so they're not going to come in and be like, what's the best scenario that I can help you create? So you're just going to develop this constant striving for this scenario, and you're going to be disappointed. So now those memories you're creating of those scenarios are encoded with disappointment because right out the gate, it'll never happen. And then it loops you back to the initial memory of like, I remember this happening. That sucks. So it's like creating this loop. And then you're validating those pathways to happen over and over. And so those codings keep populating. Those new imaginations keep populating. That disappointment keeps populating. Those identities keep populating. And so that keeps you trapped in this certain version of yourself, tying up all your creative energy in your mind. Now, when you file away your memories properly, now you choose how you want to step into the world and create the next scenario for the next day of how you're going to act. And you're using your creativity to build on yourself and be out of the identity of the past, the identity of healed, the identity I have creating my future, and the identity that, or the knowledge that they have no bearing on the direction that I'm going, and it literally frees you up. Now we're going to get in some more territory. If you want to do a little research on this, there are such things as energy vampires, energy tethers, because there's a spiritual realm that most people don't know about or acknowledge. And it is real, though. I will bet my left leg, I know for a fact, and I like my left leg, that the spiritual realm is real. Energy is real. Energy work is real. Look up energy, Reiki healing. Look up anything on energy work. There's a multitude of information and knowledge out there to be had, because we're in an information era where you can access this. Now, check this out. So when people do something to you and you remember it, you are creating these negative energies of pain and suffering that is tied directly to that person that did it, and they are feeding, literally like an energy vampire, feeding off your negative energy, because we're getting into new territory here. And if you want to quit watching, I don't care. But if you want to keep watching, stick with me. There are entities that attach to people that feed off of negative energy, and they will help navigate a person into hurting somebody. It attaches to them energetically, and every time this person remembers it or is rewounded, those negative energies are fed on those basically spiritual energy lines, and it's just feeding them. People feed off of that, and these negative energies and entities feed off of that. That's what they feed off of. So when you recode your memories and file them away, and you're choosing that I'm going to use my creativity for the future and not creating scenarios that won't happen, you're literally cutting off access points energetically. There are no more footholds built in your brain to feed off of your energy. If you don't like it, and what I'm talking about is like getting into talking about energy work and about how everything is energy. Nothing operates without energy. And there are hidden practices that delve into energy work to steal you of your energy and rob you of it through hurting you and invalidation. And this just feeds those negative entities. And if you have any question marks in your head popping up like, this guy's crazy or wild, I literally do not care what you think if I'm wrong, because I know for a fact I'm not wrong. But what you can do is you can get on the keyboard and go click, 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 and start researching and looking it up, and you will find all types of teachings about this. Because on the logarithms, I may be saying that incorrectly, that populate the things on your YouTube or your social media platforms are going to populate the things that you actively look for. If you're never looking for YouTube videos about energy work, energy tethers, or negative entities that attach to people, they're not going to populate and you won't learn about it. But when you start searching for it, it's going to be like, oh, this person wants to learn about this. And then they'll populate, and you will go down the rabbit trail. So you can look up Reiki energy healing, look up energy work, look up any of that stuff, and start learning about it. And then you can start realizing that the brain operates on energy. And when you start filing away memories properly, looking at a person for their soul, and then freeing up your energy in your mind, you're cutting out those footholds that have been created in your mind. And so look at each painful memory that you pull out, that's a foothold that a person or entity is connected to when you think of painful stuff, and it just feeds them. And it drains you of your current life energy. It is your life energy, and it's given to you for you to spend how you see fit. It is not right for anyone to steal your energy or dictate how you live your life or your thought life. Now, the Creator will step in. If you are living your life in a manner that is wounding and hurting to others, you will get roadblocks and you will be cut off, and you will be put in basically life sucks for you, because when you're down that path, you're not going to flourish. But nowadays, and we can see people who have figured out ways to flourish through hurting people. But here's the thing, at their core, in their heart, they are not happy. They are not content and not peaceful. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. That is the video about forgiveness and how it's energetically applicable in the brain, and how you can cut people off energetically by filing away your memories properly. And everything is energy. Nothing operates without energy. energy follows awareness. When you create things in your mind, that's just manipulating energy in your mind and adding detail to it, and concepts, identity, and context. And then you use your hands or your mind to create ideas and bring things together in the world that represent what happened in your brain that you created. Anyway, I'm done. Roadhouse, spiritual hard.